Well, here I'm cleaning out this gearbox, and you see all the grease is gone. That's what you want. You don't want no grease, dried up old grease in there, because it'll cause problems. Clean out the gears, make sure you get everything out of the spokes. Clean the armature. See how much nicer that looks? And the gear on that, look at that. How shiny that is. You want all that grease out of there, because what happens is the worm gear goes between these other gears, and if there's dirt in between there, it pushes it out more, right? It's caked in there. Old grease will push it away. I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. And that will cause pressure on the armature shaft out toward the side, rubbing on the bearing, the bushing in there. Not really a bearing, it's a sleeve bushing. Rubbing on the bushing and putting pressure on the armature. That's not good for the motor. Makes it heat up, draw more current. So that's where I'm at with this. Now I'm about to start reassembling the fan. Well, today we're putting a switch in this fan. This is the switch, and there's the pointer. So I went ahead and put contacts on it with shrink wrap, extended the wires on this coil because they were getting really short, and the speeds are 1, 2, 3 across the switch, 1, 2, 3, and this is the input. So that goes to the fan. The power comes into the coil here, comes out on 1, 2, and 3. And so what it is, I put a stripe for 1, 2 stripes on 2, and 3 stripes on 3. Makes it easier to remember. And if I just write 1, 2, or 3, it'll just wear off. So this way you can just look at the coil wires when you service this. This is the ground, which will connect to the screw there. And we're about ready to test it. I don't have the line plug on it yet. I guess I can go ahead and put that on, and then we will do a test. So I'll go ahead and install the plug now. Okay, we're good to go. I got it set on, let's see, I'm on 102. Let me crank it up a little. It's running. All right, now we're at about I'll go a little higher. Yeah, we go 118 volts, and we're drawing 1 amp on high. And if I click it, which I can't seem to do with one hand, so let me get this camera to balance here. Okay, that's 2 medium, and we're drawing 780 milliamps. So we went down from 1 amp to 0.78, and that's low. And that drops down to 0.7. So 700. So 700, 780, and 1 on high. So it's running good. Coil's working. The medium and low coil are really close on this one. It's just the way it's designed. But the speed changes, even though the current varies only by about 80 milliamps. That's still a considerable amount of current. You see it's spinning fine, even laying on its side. So I'm going to go ahead and put the coil in and the switch. Tighten these down so there's some strain relief. The one's over here on the cord. It's got new grommets, and good to go. New head wire, the whole bit. So, hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you're working on this, you see how that goes. Let me just show you the wiring. The neutral, you always want to run the neutral directly to the motor. To the whatever neutral you're going to use on the motor, it doesn't matter, but run the neutral directly to the motor if you're going to ground the case. the hot wire you want on the switch. That way when the switch is off, there's no power going anywhere into the motor. The neutral and the ground are the same, and in the circuit panel, so they're the same. They connect together anyway. But this is the ground, and then you have the high going to the motor is coming out of the single input of the switch, and then on this particular way of arranging it, that's the way it goes. The hot wire from the line cord goes to this red wire, which is the coil hot. Then the three output wires, low, medium, and high, go to the low, medium, and high on the switch, and they actually feed the single wire, the main wire, going to the motor. So you got the neutral going to the motor, you got the single wire going to the motor, and then you got 1, 2, and 3 off the switch, feeding the switch, and then you have the hot coming into the coil, which feeds 1, 2, and 3. So that's how that goes. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and install this, and it's getting ready to ship it back, but I'll stand it up and we'll watch it spin. I still have to put the oil in it too. I haven't done that yet. And it gets one oil with a wick. But I'll get that done, and then we'll take a look at it. Well, there you have it. It's running fine, and that's on, that's off, high, 2, medium, 3, which is slow. And the way the switch goes is from off to high. You want it that way because that's less stress on the motor, gives it more power to get up to speed, and then you don't need to wait for it, but you'll notice when, I'll show you when it stops. Okay, it's at a dead stop. Watch how fast it starts turning on high. So by the time I go to medium or low, it's already running. If you start it out on low first, it puts a bigger strain on the motor to get going, so this will definitely help with the longevity to have it a high, medium, low. It can always be switched. The wires are clipped, so they can unclip and switch around, but I wouldn't. I'd leave it this way. Oscillator's working fine. Two things. One, there's no oiler in this fan. It's missing. So you're going to want to get an oiler. Maybe the owner kept it to clean it. That's all I could think of. It wasn't. He had a couple bags with parts in them, but there was no parts for that. And I've been taking them out as I use them. So they were not in the. It was not in the bag. I imagine he's cleaning it out and putting a new wick in it or whatever. But that's one thing. The other thing is, as I explained to him, to the owner already, is these switches, the new switches, they don't line up exactly right. So like for off, shut this off. For off here, you'll notice it's pretty close to off. 1 is dead on. 2 is a little bit past 2. 3 is considerably past 3, just like off is considerably past off. It's just the way to make these switches today. They don't make them as such a small I don't think they have the ability to do that. You know, these are made overseas, and I just don't think they have the ability to put four clicks right next to each other, so they got a bigger span. But it's not as obvious with the pointer on this way, because it's a short pointer on this side and it's closer to where it belongs. You can take that off and turn it around and put it the other way, but it's more drastic. 1 is still on, 2's past 2, and 3's way past 3. Because it sticks out so far, it's more obvious and more chance of breaking it here. So I'll put them on backwards, and that way they're sticking this way. If you hit them, it's just gonna turn down. Same thing here, it's gonna just turn down. So it's less likely to break than if it's sticking up way out from the fan. So, but that's just personal preference. that can be set however the owner wants. But there you have it, and I appreciate you watching the video. If you found it informative, and it's been a short video, but you got to see how we service a motor that comes in with just the motor and some pieces, and put it back together and get it functioning. And so that concludes this work on this GE fan, catalog number 78X233. Going to be going back to the customer soon. Please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you.